She sat alone in that small corner coffee shop, staring at the door, convinced she'd been stood up again. But everything changed the moment two 6-year-old girls pushed through the glass door, matching backpacks, matching braids, and a mission burning in their tiny eyes. They marched straight toward her, no hesitation, no fear, and in that single breath she realized something she never expected. Love wasn't missing, that IT wasn't broken, that IT was just 17 minutes late. Naomi tapped her fingers against the warm mug, watching the foam on her latte collapse, slowly. Like her hope for this date, she dressed nicely, even curled her hair, and arrived 10 minutes early. But now, 53 minutes had passed, and the empty chair across from her felt louder than the chatter around her. She sighed, slipped her coat off the chair, and stood up. Of course, she whispered to herself. Another evening wasted. The cafe door chimed behind her, but she didn't even bother looking. Why would she? It wasn't him. It was never him. But then, tiny footsteps, that a pair of giggles, that a soft, high-pitched voice saying, "Ruby, don't push me." Naomi turned, instinctively point two little girls, maybe 6 years old, stood at the entrance. Matching ponytails, matching backpacks, matching looks of fierce determination on faces far too small to carry such purpose. They scanned the cafe like two miniature detectives on a mission, then marched straight toward her. Excuse me?" Naomi blinked. The taller twin stepped forward. "Are you Miss Naomi?" Naomi nodded slowly, confused. "Yes, I am." The smaller twin clasped her hands, took a deep breath, and said, "We're really sorry. Daddy is late." Naomi froze. Daddy? Their dad? Her date? Before she could speak, the girls exchanged a proud little smile, like their job here was done, and suddenly the disappointment she'd been swallowing for almost an hour softened. Maybe she hadn't been stood up? Maybe the universe wasn't punishing her. Maybe, just maybe, her ordinary evening had been quietly rearranged into something extraordinary. All because two brave little girls walked into a cafe at the exact right moment. Naomi knelt so she was eye level with the girls, their matching eyes, warm brown, full of innocence and urgency, blinked at her like they were waiting for permission to breathe. "Sweethearts, where's her dad now?" she asked gently. The taller one, Leia, looked left, then right, then leaned in as if sharing top-secret information. "Daddy doesn't know we're here." Naomi's eyebrows shot up. "He doesn't." Ruby shook her head so hard her ponytail smacked her cheek. "Nope, not all. We sneaked out." Naomi's heart nearly jumped out of her chest. "You sneaked out." Leia quickly raised both hands as if she'd just blown a whistle on herself. "But only from the car." Daddy was fixing his shirt and talking to himself again. Talking to himself? Ruby nodded seriously. "He always talks to himself when he's nervous." "Always," Leia confirmed. "Like when he has to ask for extra ketchup at the drive-thru, or when he meets teachers, or when he has to return something without the receipt." They both sighed dramatically. Naomi pressed her lips together, fighting a smile. "So why did you come in alone?" The twins exchanged a look, the kind siblings share when deciding whether to tell the whole truth or the kid version of it. Leia spoke first. "Daddy was scared." Ruby added softly, "And he didn't want you to see." Naomi felt something warm flicker in her chest. Scared of what? Ruby tugged her backpack strap, voice cracking just a little. "Scared you wouldn't like him." Leia nodded, her little chin trembling. "He tried on 4 shirts. We counted." Ruby held up 4 fingers proudly, the blue one, the black one, the really black one, and the one we hate. "The scratchy one," Leia clarified, wrinkling her nose. "The one Mommy bought for a wedding, but Daddy says it feels like wearing homework." The two girls giggled at their inside joke, but Naomi felt her throat tighten. They kept going, unfiltered, honest, raw, and only the way children can be. "He practiced saying hello, Naomi, in the mirror," Leia said, twisting her fingers. 27 times. 28, Ruby corrected. "He messed up on hello once." Naomi's breath caught. This wasn't cute anymore. This was something deeper, something fragile. Ruby reached in her tiny backpack and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Naomi gently opened it, a calendar page. Today's date circled in RED. I'm in the center of the circle, drawn in shaky pen strokes. was a small, smiley face. He drew that, Ruby whispered, so he would remember to be brave. Leia nodded solemnly. And also because he said today might be the day our family changes. Naomi felt the weight of the words settle inside her. Family, changes, bravery. This wasn't just a nervous single dad hoping for a good first date. This was something sacred. She looked back at the girls, who were suddenly quiet, staring at her with a softness she didn't understand yet. Why? Why does today matter so much? Naomi asked gently. Ruby swallowed hard. Because you're the first person. The first person what? Naomi whispered. Leia's voice dropped to a tiny, trembling whisper. You're the first person Daddy's talked to since Mommy went to heaven. Time stopped. The cafe noise faded. The clinking cups, the whirring espresso machine, the soft chatter, it all dissolved into silence. Naomi felt her heart fold in on itself, tender and aching. Ruby blinked slowly, tears welling but brave. Daddy pretends he's okay. He makes pancakes. He packs our lunches. He combs our hair, even though it hurts sometimes. Leia picked up the sentence, as if they'd practiced sharing it. But he gets sad at night, and he thinks we don't see. But we do, Ruby whispered. Leia nudged Ruby gently, then looked up at Naomi with a steadiness far too old for her tiny face. We just want Daddy to smile again. And we thought maybe, Ruby tugged Naomi's shirt shyly. Maybe you could help. Naomi felt tears sting the corners of her eyes. Help? She had walked in expecting a normal date. Maybe a nice conversation. Maybe a laugh. She never expected this point, two tiny hearts carrying the weight of their father's grief, stepping into a cafe because they believed she might be a piece of healing. She reached out and took their little hands, one on each side. I'm so sorry about your mommy, she whispered. The twins nodded, not breaking. And your daddy? Naomi took a shaky breath. He must love you too so much. Ruby smiled weakly. He says Mommy picked a special for him. And he tries really hard, Leia added. But he gets scared. Naomi felt something shift inside her, like a door opening quietly, letting warm light in. With one gentle squeeze of their hands, she said, I think your daddy sounds wonderful. Ruby's face brightened. Leia's shoulders relaxed. And just like that, Naomi felt the evening transform. From a failed date to a moment she was never meant to leave, to two little girls who walked in her life and placed their father's heart softly into her hands. Everything suddenly felt bigger than expectations, bigger than disappointment, bigger than herself. This wasn't fate playing a trick. This was fate revealing its plan. The moment Naomi suggested hot chocolate, the twins lit up like someone had plugged them into a wall socket. Within minutes, the barista delivered 2 steaming mugs crowned with mountains of whipped cream, so tall they wobbled. Ruby stared at hers like it was a sacred treasure. Leia whispered, if it falls, we blame physics. Naomi finally laughed, a soft, genuine sound that loosened something in her chest. The girls dipped their noses into the whipped cream, emerging with white, fluffy mustaches that made them look like tiny Santa Clauses. Ruby puffed her chest proudly. Now, I look like Daddy when he forgets to shave. Leia snorted mid-sip. Daddy doesn't forget. He says shaving is boring. Naomi grinned and wiped Ruby's cheek with a napkin. I think you two might be the funniest pair I've ever met. Oh, we are, Leia said confidently. Daddy says we have main character energy. Ruby leaned forward, voice lowering dramatically. And we're on a mission. A mission. Naomi humored them, taking a sip of her own drink. Operation. Leia paused for effect. Make Daddy smile again. Ruby nodded with the seriousness of a tiny soldier. It used to be Operation Keep Daddy Awake. Then Operation No More Burnt Noodles. But this one is more important. Naomi's heart tugged gently. These girls weren't just playful. They were purposeful. Children carrying emotional intelligence far beyond their years. Ruby scooted her mug aside and pulled out a pink notebook from her backpack. Stickers covered it. Stars, hearts, and a surprisingly fierce-looking unicorn. Leia rolled her eyes. Ruby journals everything. Ruby flipped the notebook open proudly. It helps me remember Mommy's songs. Naomi softened. Your mommy sang? Leia's voice grew gentle. She sang all the time. when she cooked, when she drove, when she braided our hair. But Daddy doesn't sing as good, Ruby added. He tries, though. He learned the lullaby on YouTube. He plays the wrong chords, Leia whispered. But we pretend not to notice. Naomi felt her heart warm in a way she hadn't felt in years. Moved, tender, protective. And Daddy braids our hair now, Ruby continued, touching her own ponytail. Mommy used to do it, but Daddy learned. Ow! Naomi asked. Both girls answered together. YouTube. Leia continued. He watches videos with names like Easy School Braid, but they are not easy. Ruby rubbed her scalp dramatically. One time he braided mine so tight I couldn't blink. Naomi laughed so hard she nearly spilled her drink. But beneath the humor, something deeper was happening. She was learning who these children were. And through them, who their father was, at a man who tried, at a man who learned, at a man who held his daughters together with trembling hands and endless love. Ruby flipped to the next page in her notebook. This is the butterfly pancake. The drawing was wobbly but sweet. Two heart-shaped pancakes forming wings. Daddy makes them every Sunday, Leia explained. And he puts blueberries like polka dots. Mommy made them first, Ruby said, her voice softening. So Daddy learned them too. Naomi swallowed past the growing lump in her throat. These two little girls weren't bragging. They were defending, protecting, telling the story of a man who wasn't perfect, but who loved them so fiercely it reshaped his entire life. Naomi leaned forward, elbows on the table. You two love your dad a lot, huh? Of course, Ruby gasped. He's our everything. And we're his whole universe, Leia added, making air quotes. He says that every night before bed. Naomi felt something shift inside her, a gentle realization blooming like light through curtains. These girls weren't adorable accessories to a single dad. They were warriors in pigtails, carrying memories, carrying grief, carrying hope. And they had chosen her to sit with T.O. listen, T.O. trust. Naomi's heart melted into a softness she hadn't known she still possessed. She looked at the empty chair again, the one she'd almost walked away from earlier. Maybe she hadn't been stood up. Maybe she'd been brought here for a reason she couldn't see yet. The girls had gone quiet, sipping what little hot chocolate remained. Ruby scraped whipped cream from the edges with her straw. Leia hummed a tune, soft, familiar, almost haunting, the lullaby. Naomi felt the weight of the moment settle between them, warm, delicate, full of unspoken truth. She took a deep breath. Girls, she said softly. Both heads snapped up in perfect unison. Yes, Miss Naomi, they chimed. She smiled. A real smile. The kind she hadn't felt on her face in a long, long time. I think, she said carefully, your daddy must be really hungry. Ruby blinked. Leia tilted her head. Naomi continued, and I don't think he should eat alone. A spark lit in Ruby's eyes. Wait, are you saying? Naomi nodded toward the counter. How about the three of us order dinner? All his favorites. Leia gasped so loudly half the cafe looked over. Daddy loves chicken tenders. And curly fries, Ruby added. And those little lemon cakes, Leia shouted. Naomi laughed and held up her hands. Okay, one at a time. The girls bounced in their seats, whispering excitedly to each other. Naomi watched them, feeling a warmth grow inside her like a rising sun. This wasn't pity. This wasn't obligation. This was choice, that a choice led by kindness, by connection, by something that felt strangely like fate stretching its fingers gently around her own life. She stood up and held out her hands. Come on, she said. Let's go take dinner to your dad. Ruby grabbed one hand. Leia grabbed the other. And as they walked toward the counter, three unlikely companions, Naomi felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Purpose. Not the kind that comes from work or goals or responsibilities, but the kind that comes from stepping into someone's story and realizing you were meant to be there all along. The drive to the construction site was a blend of giggles, whispered plans, and Ruby shouting directions from the back seat like a tiny backseat GPS that occasionally got distracted by clouds. There. Turn left. No, not that left. The other left. Naomi laughed through most of it. But once they pulled up to the half-built structure lit by floodlights, reality settled into her chest. Wood beams. Steel frames. tools scattered like a paused symphony, and somewhere inside, a man she had only imagined through the eyes of two little girls. Ruby unbuckled with urgency. Hurry! Daddy might still be panicking. Leia grabbed Naomi's hand. Don't be nervous. He's nice, and he smells like vanilla spray. Most days, Ruby corrected as they stepped into the open structure. The air held the crisp scent of freshly cut wood and something else, fear, because standing in the middle of the space, holding a rolled-up blueprint and a half-tucked shirt, was a man frozen like a deer caught in headlights. Andre. His eyes landed on Naomi first. Confusion, panic, embarrassment. Then they dropped to the bags of Chinese food in her hands. Then to his daughters clinging to her like she was their long-lost aunt. And finally, to the fact that all three of them were staring at him expectantly. Ruby announced with the confidence of a presidential press secretary, "Daddy, we saved the date." Andre's mouth opened, closed, opened again. "I'm sorry," he managed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I swear I was coming. I dropped a tool, and then the measurements were wrong, and then Daddy." Leia interrupted with a dramatic eye roll. "You were panicking." Andre shot her a betrayed look. "Traitor." But Naomi smiled softly, stepping forward. "It's okay." "Really?" Andre exhaled sharply, embarrassed but relieved. "Naomi, I'm beyond sorry. I didn't want our first meeting to be like this." He gestured to his dusty boots, rumpled shirt, and sawdust sprinkled like accidental glitter across his chest. Naomi took in the sight gently. This wasn't a man who didn't care. This was a man who cared too much. Ruby tugged at his sleeve. "We told her everything." Andre froze. "Everything?" Leia nodded. "The shirts, the YouTube rates, the butterfly pancakes," Ruby added softly, "and Mommy." Andre's shoulders dropped, the breath leaving his body like someone had knocked against his ribs. He closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, Naomi could see it, the rawness, the grief, the effort of a man learning how to stitch his life back together, one small moment at a time. Naomi stepped closer, her voice gentle enough to land like silk. "They love you so much." His throat moved, but no words came out as he looked at his daughters. His whole universe. Standing beside Naomi with whipped cream stained still on their collars and hope shining in their eyes. Then he looked at Naomi. Really looked. The soft brown curls that framed her face, the kindness in her eyes, the calm she carried just by standing there. "I don't know what to say," he whispered. Naomi lifted the bag of food. "Well, you could start with dinner." That broke him into a smile, a tired, grateful, crooked smile that she immediately liked more than any polished one he might have practiced in the mirror. They walked to a makeshift table, a stack of plywood balanced on two sawhorses. Ruby called it the fancy table. Leia added napkins she found in her backpack to make it romantic. Andre nearly choked on air. They gathered around, unpacking warm containers that filled the cold construction air with the comforting smell of soy sauce, ginger, garlic, and fresh noodles. Andre picked up a dumpling, still visibly flustered. "I must look ridiculous," he muttered, brushing sawdust off his arm. Naomi shook her head. "You look like a man who works hard." He paused. Nobody had said that to him in a long time. The twins, oblivious to the growing emotional current, began debating chopstick technique with the intensity of Olympic judges. Naomi laughed softly. "You have quite the team here." Andre glanced at his daughters, his heart softening, pride glowing under his tired eyes. "They're everything," he murmured. "Most days I'm just trying not to mess it up." "You're doing better than you think," she replied. Their eyes met, warm, honest, unguarded. Between them lay blueprints. Some rolled, some spread open, some marked with colorful crayon scribbles courtesy of the twins. Blueprints of buildings, blueprints of a life, blueprints of a man learning to rebuild both. Naomi gently touched one of the papers. "You do this?" she asked. Andre nodded. "Yeah. I design things, build things, fix things." He looked down. "Just not my shirt today." She smiled. "You're doing just fine." A quietness settled, a soft, enveloping stillness among the sawdust and half-finished walls. Not awkward, not rushed, just two people quietly seeing each other. Until, of course, the twins decided they had waited long enough. Ruby crossed her arms. deadly serious. Daddy. Andre looked up. Yes. Leia pointed at Naomi as if presenting evidence. You need to ask her. Andre blinked. Ask her what? Ruby sighed, exasperated. Daddy, come on. A real date. Like normal people, Leia added. Andre froze like someone had unplugged his brain. He looked at Naomi, then at the girls, then back at Naomi. I don't want to make her uncomfortable. Naomi lifted an eyebrow. Andre? Yes, he squeaked. She tilted her head playfully. I like pancakes. The twins gasped. Andre blinked. Naomi smiled. And that was it. That was everything that sparked at a moment, a beginning. Andre swallowed hard, courage flickering his eyes like a shy flame. Then he said slowly, carefully, it's a date. The twins erupted into cheers, jumping up and down, high-fiving each other like they'd single-handedly orchestrated a national victory. Naomi laughed, full and free, while Andre watched her with a look that said he wasn't sure what he'd done to deserve this moment. But he wasn't letting it go. Not this time. Not ever again. Saturday morning arrived with sunlight slipping through kitchen curtains and the smell of batter sizzling on a pan. Naomi stood beside Andre, both wearing aprons the twins had decorated with crooked hearts and glitter glue. This time, the butterfly pancakes didn't come out lopsided. This time, for hands shaped the wings, and two little girls supervised like strict but joyful bosses. Ruby sprinkled blueberries with precision. Leia approved the smile curve of the syrup, and Andre just kept looking at Naomi like he couldn't believe she was here, really here, in the place where the echoes of old grief were finally turning into laughter. Saturday pancakes soon became a ritual, a grounding point, a tiny celebration of a life being remade. From there, routines blossomed naturally. There were treehouse secrets whispered under wooden beams that Andre built and the twins decorated. Ruby told Naomi her dream of being a rain scientist. Leia admitted she wanted to write songs like her mother used to. Naomi listened, always with her whole heart. There were sleepy Sunday songs, the lullabies Naomi learned so the girls could hear the melodies they missed. Andre would listen from the hallway, leaning against the wall, eyes soft with gratitude he didn't know how to speak. There were cozy weeknight evenings where homework, hot cocoa, and silly TV shows intertwined until it felt impossible to imagine this house without Naomi's laughter echoing inside it. School plays, costume making, holiday decorating, bandaged knees and birthday candles, 8,000 tiny moments of healing stitched themselves into something sacred. And somewhere in the middle of it all, between pancake mornings and lullaby nights, the first kiss arrived. Not dramatic, not planned, just soft, shy, certain that tea happened on the couch after the girls fell asleep during movie night. Naomi reached to pull a blanket over them. Andre reached too. Their hands met, their eyes held. And for the first time in years, Andre felt something new bloom in the space where loss once lived. Hope. Warm, gentle, steady. 6 months passed like a collection of sweet memories. And on one quiet evening, Andre asked the girls if they were ready. They nodded so hard their ponytails bounced up. Yes, oh, he took Naomi back to the cafe, the cozy one with the warm lights, the same place the girls had marched into with whipped cream, mustaches, and bravery in their hearts. This time, the girls walked beside her, not searching for something, but leading her to something. Naomi didn't notice at first. The soft music, the empty tables, the rose petals scattered near the corner booth. Andre cleared his throat. Naomi, she turned, and there he was, dusty boots replaced by polished shoes, the nervous shirt now crisp and clean, and hope shining in his eyes. Leia and Ruby each held a tiny sign. One said, "Will you the other be our family?" Naomi covered her mouth as tears slipped free. Andre went down on one knee. "You walked into our lives when we didn't know we needed saving," he said softly. "You brought light into places we thought would stay dark forever. Naomi, will you marry me?" Her yes came out as a whisper, then a laugh, then a tearful, joyful yes again. 1 year later, they married in the backyard beneath strings of fairy lights. The girls wore butterfly dresses, wings shimmering as they danced down the aisle. And Naomi carried a single white rose for the mother whose love still lived in their hearts, guiding them gently into this new beginning. And when Andre kissed his bride, the twins shouted, "We saved the date again." This time it was forever. In the end, Naomi thought she'd been stood up, but life wasn't abandoning her. It was guiding her toward two brave little girls with butterfly dreams and whipped cream mustaches, and a father rebuilding his world one hopeful morning at a time. This story reminds us, sometimes love doesn't walk in on time. Sometimes it walks in through two 6-year-olds who refuse to give up on their dad. Sometimes fate doesn't knock softly. Sometimes it marches in with matching ponytail and says, "We saved the date." And sometimes the family we're meant to have is the one that meets us in a café 17 minutes late, but right on time for our hearts. Because real love doesn't follow a scheduled IT finds us when we're ready to believe again.